to get through all of Herman's life, but I was informed that I didn't have 2 hours to do the introduction, so I pared it down a little bit. Herman was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, by loving and hard-working parents who his father worked 3 jobs in order to provide a better life for his children. He earned a degree in mathematics from Morehouse College in 1967. And shortly thereafter, he married the love of his life, Gloria, and they started on their journey to achieve their dream. He earned his master's degree in computer science from Purdue University, and then spent 6 years working for the Department of the Navy. Now, I do have to stress that I heard earlier today, he was not in the Navy. He worked for the Department of the Navy. He was a mathematician working on fire control systems. Shortly after that, he joined Coca-Cola Company and started climbing the corporate ladder, working again in mathematics for Coca-Cola. Then, after a successful career at Coca-Cola, he moved to the Pillsbury Company, where within a very short period of time, he rose to be one of the youngest vice presidents of the company at the age of 34. He then started on a new career path. He decided that having a corner office up in the plant wasn't such an exciting thing to be, but it wasn't what his life goals were. So he decided that he was going to go back and actually went back and went to flipping and broiling burgers for Burger King. Worked his way up through Burger King, and which at that time was owned by Pillsbury, and took over a division which was the lowest performing division in the United States. And in 3 years, he took it to the highest regional performing position in the United States. So he knows how to get things done. His next adventure was the CEO and president of Godfather's Pizza, which he saved from bankruptcy in 14 months. So on the verge of bankruptcy in 14 months. Then became president and CEO of the National Restaurant Association, the board of directors of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, and was subsequently elected their chairman. He has written 3 books. Think You're Stupid, Why Leadership is Common Sense, and Speak as a Leader, Develop a Better Speaker in You. Today, or up until last week, I understand, he hosted a radio talk show called The Herman Cain Show on Atlanta's WSB 750 AM and 95.5 FM. He also has written numerous columns for distribution by North Star Writers Group, and he serves as a commentator for Fox News Business. The other thing, though, that Herman Cain is, that I think is one of the best things, is he fought cancer and has won. And he is a cancer survivor and has battled it with his faith and his energies. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Herman Cain.
Thank you for honoring me by inviting me, and I'm delighted to be here. One of my heroes, Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, the late president of Morehouse College, used to remind the young men of Morehouse, let it be borne in mind that the tragedy of life does not lie in not reaching your goals. The tragedy lies in having no goals to reach for. It's not a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity to have no dreams. You see, we're here today because our founding fathers had goals and dreams. It was their dream of the greatest country in the world that inspired them to fight for liberty and freedom. It was our founding fathers who defined what I call the spirit of America, even before it was popular. They defined the spirit of America when they said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That defined the spirit of America. Today we have some people who want to rewrite that spirit of America by leaving out the phrase endowed by their Creator. But there are those who refuse to allow the spirit of America to be redefined or rewritten. Our founding fathers had a dream, and they had a vision. I received a phone call from a caller one night on my radio show. And I was talking about, this was a 4th of July show. I was talking about our founding fathers, and I was reminding them of the Declaration of Independence and the preamble to the Constitution, and reminding people, because a lot of people either have never read it or they have forgotten, reminding them of those great documents. I even read to them the Gettysburg Address, because I define the Gettysburg Address as the greatest Memorial Day speech ever given, but not on Memorial Day. So I got this call, who called and said, Mr. Cain, I don't understand how you as a black man can be sitting there praising the founding fathers. Many of them had slaves. How can you possibly be giving them all of this recognition and praise when they had slaves? Your forefathers. I said, sir, you missed the point. The founding fathers had the wisdom to define this nation at a bar higher than themselves. Even though they may have had slaves, they didn't set the bar low. They set the bar where it ought to be, above where they were in that day and time, giving future generations an opportunity to work up to that ideal that all men are created equal. And we did. That's the spirit of America that some people forget. The spirit of America was reflected by inspirational leaders. Ludwig reminded me of that today when we were at Henry's house. Oh yeah, you can read about the things that I would do in that booklet that I left with you. I'm not going to talk about those tonight. But Ludwig came up to me just before he was about to leave and said, I agree with all of your ideas, but they're not new. I said, I know. They're not new ideas. Because these are ideas that have been around for a while, but Ludwig pointed out the problem is going to be, how do you get it done? And he said, we're going to need inspirational leadership to get those ideas implemented. Abraham Lincoln was an inspirational leader. In one of the toughest times in our history. A lot of people remember Abraham Lincoln as having freed the slaves, and he did with a proclamation. But yet there were those, even though he had issued that executive proclamation, they tried to drag this nation back into that mode. This is why we got the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, because there were men and women in this country who wanted no misunderstanding about what it meant in this nation for all men to have been created equal. That's the spirit of America. And Abraham Lincoln exemplified that inspirational leadership that brought America through one of the toughest times it had ever faced. He didn't just free the slaves with a proclamation. He freed the slaves by keeping America together. He kept united in the phrase, United States of America. We've had other inspirational leaders in some of the toughest times of our nation. John F. Kennedy was one of those inspirational leaders. Yes, he was a Democrat, but he was an inspirational leader at a time, even though he served a short period of time, he served the people first, not his party. Then there was Ronald Reagan, who many of us remember oh so well. I was just a young man, just beginning to pay attention to politics and government when Ronald Reagan was president. And it appears as if the longer the time goes that he was here on this planet, the more all of us appreciate his inspirational leadership. Because Reagan had the ability to capture and communicate the spirit of America that brought us together. The spirit of America that caused the United States Congress to do many things that a lot of people didn't think that Reagan would be able to get done. So now we have and we face some similar daunting challenges. Many people in this room, along with me, believe that this nation is on the wrong track. America is getting away from those values envisioned in the dream of our founding fathers. They set the bar high. They were the founding fathers. We must be the defending fathers of those same ideals and those same values. We must be the defending fathers and mothers. Because as many of you all have heard me say, it's not about us. It's about the grandchildren. One of the questions that I always get asked, and I always enjoy answering it, is, why are you considering running for President of the United States? Started in 1999 when my first grandchild was born. The first time I looked in that little face, the first thought that went through my mind wasn't, what do I do to make sure that she gets a good education or a great start in life, like my parents wanted, like your parents wanted for you, like you want for your children and grandchildren. It wasn't about what do I do to give them a great start in life. The first thought that went through my mind, so help me God, was, what do I do to make this a better world? I didn't know where that was going to lead. I didn't know it was going to lead to this Lincoln Reagan dinner tonight. But that was the first thought in my mind. And 2 days ago, I was interviewed by a reporter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And she asked me a question that in the months I've been speaking, in the years I've been doing interviews, a question that I had never been asked. And it caused me to stop and ponder. When I told her the story about how my first grandchild inspired me to consider running because of all of the issues we face. She said, "You said that your granddaughter inspired you. How is that different from how your children might have inspired you?" I thought for a moment, Cliff. When our children were born, we focused on their future. When our grandchildren were born, we focused on the future of America. Ask any grandparent, and they will tell you. So when people say, "Why are you considering such a crazy thing? You've never held public office." I said, "Yes, I wear it as a badge of honor." That's a good thing. Then I turn the question back around and I say, "Well, you know, you're right. Most of the people that are in elective office in Washington, D.C., they have held office before. How's that working for you?" We got a mess. And it was Albert Einstein who said that if you keep doing the same thing, the same way, expecting a different result, it's insanity. So maybe it's time for somebody who hasn't held public office, but who's a proven problem solver. The spirit of America rises when America is in its darkest moments. Abraham Lincoln demonstrated that. Ronald Reagan demonstrated that. We are now in one of our darkest moments again. And I happen to believe that we are all put here on this earth to make a difference with whatever time, talent, and treasure each of us are blessed with individually or collectively. Some of us can run for office. Some of us can be a commissioner. Some of us can be supporters. Some of us can head up our county party. Some of us can teach school. All of us have talents that God Almighty charges us to use to make a difference in this life. No matter what it is. Even lawyers, as Jella said. I told Jella earlier, I like some lawyers. I don't dislike all of them. There are some very good ones in this country. We were all put here for a purpose. And that's one of the things that I had to pray about and pray about and pray about. What do I do with the rest of my life, given the fact that I have lived my American dream? My parents were able to achieve their American dreams by owning a whole house because they both walked off of a farm at the age of 18. My father walked off of a farm at the age of 18 with the clothes on his back. That was all, until he could work those 3 jobs. My mother walked off of a farm at the age of 18 with the clothes on her back and a shopping bag of everything she owned. That dream was to own a whole house, and they did. That dream was for their sons to get a little bit better start in life, and we did. Go to school, graduate from college, and get a good job. I used to ask my mom, "Mom, what's a good job?" She kept saying, "Son, I want you to grow up and get a good job. Get a good education so you can get a good job." I said, "Mom, what do you define as a good job?" She said a good job is when you go to work every day with a shirt and tie and you work in air conditioning. I said, Mom, I want a good job. But they wanted us to achieve our American dreams. And what we face today is that the American dream is under attack because America is on the wrong track. But we are fighting back, and we will get it back. Yeah! The movement has already started, and all of you have been a part of that movement. We saw the first evidence of that on November 2nd. When I woke up on the morning of November 3rd, I breathed a cautious sigh of relief. Because I was concerned that all of this citizens movement, energy and enthusiasm might not show up at the polls, but it did. And we finished phase 1, and now we're working on phase 2 to take back the Senate and the White House in 2012. You know, I love it when people say, you know, you don't have a chance. And I say, you don't know very much about my history. I love it, Tom, when they say, you don't have a chance. There's a professor at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, who was quoted in an article printed by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution who said, Herman Cain doesn't have a chance. He's only going to get 1 or 2% of the vote in the primary. A reporter said, so what do you say to this professor who doesn't think you have a chance? I say, thank you for the encouragement. Because he doesn't understand the spirit of America and what the people can do, not just what the politicians can do. What the people want and not just what the political elites want in this country. And if I recall correctly, the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution still says, we the people, not we the politicians. Yes. So on this Lincoln-Reagan Day dinner, I'm pleased to and honored to have been asked to participate because it is historical figures like Lincoln, Reagan, Dr. King, my dad, that inspire me to want to leave this nation and this world a little bit better. That's what we all want to do. With the time, the talent, and the treasures that we have. You are the spirit of America. The citizens movement that's going on across this country is the spirit of America. And I happen to believe that that spirit of America is going to show up again, not just on election day, but all the way up to election day, November 2012. It's going to show up in bigger rallies, bigger tea parties, bigger turnouts at the dinners, greater involvement to keep their feet to the fire. This movement is going to continue. That's what gives an unconventional, never having held office before candidates like me and others a chance. And the reason is real simple. It goes back to paraphrasing the last line of that Gettysburg Address. Because if I run for president because of the spirit of America and the spirit of my forefathers and the spirit of the founders and the spirit of your forefathers, and if I run and if you elect me your president, I would be a president of the people because I'm regular folk just like you. I would be a president by the people because you see the professionals aren't going to elect me, the people are. And I would be a president for the people. You would never have me try to jam legislation down your throats that you didn't need or want. That's what a president for the people would do. And as the giver reminded us about the spirit of America and the challenge that we have to leave this nation and this world a little bit better off for Selena, my granddaughter, and all the other little faces. The giver reminds us, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We can't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, so they can do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our grandchildren what the United States used to be like when men were free. I don't know about you. I'm not going to have that conversation with my grandchildren, because I truly believe that the spirit of America is not going to allow the United States of America to become the United States of Europe. Not on our watch.